Making Glenway Work, a District Plan by Ian Vaness and Casey White. West Price Hills Neighborhood Business District B along Glenway Avenue is the westernmost commercial corridor of the neighborhood's business districts. Glenway Avenue is the commercial lifeline of West Price Hill. This four-lane auto-oriented district has a mix of building styles, uses, and setbacks, presenting both challenges and opportunities for developing a district identity. Making Glenway Work provides West Price Hill with multiple scenarios to help position the district as a place of production, employment, and work moving forward. This plan focuses on the more walkable and dense section of Glenway between Cleves, Warsaw Pike, Gurley Road intersection, and Sydney Road. Glenway Avenue is home to some of West Price Hill's most notable attractions like Price Hill Chili and the Covedale Theater for Performing Arts, serving as the neighborhood's economic and cultural anchors. Existing land uses in the district range from retail, restaurants, services, institutional, mixed-use, residential, and vacant. However, retail currently accounts for 26% of the business district's total building uses. Fortunately, Glenway has been able to retain neighborhood staples like Rock and Rooster Comics and Games, Burnen's Medical, and the Covedale Library. That said, retail successes along Glenway and throughout America have been few and far between. Retail's over-dependence and underperformance has led Glenway and most urban business districts in America to become fragmented, underutilized, and often dysfunctional. Glenway's Neighborhood Business District B lies on the edge of the city of Cincinnati's boundary with neighboring Delhi Township. The farther one travels west away from Cincinnati on Glenway, the more auto-oriented the urban environment becomes. The automobile has dramatically impacted Glenway's form and function. The over-reliance on cars has negatively impacted neighborhood business districts in three ways. They have decreased the walkability of urban commercial corridors, resulting in fewer pedestrians and less time for passersby to take notice of their surroundings. Furthermore, pedestrians are currently forced to walk alongside of the busy thoroughfare, making it dangerous and decreasing the total number of pedestrians walking throughout the district. Second, they have greedily consumed majority of the right-of-way to cars, and seen in the 4 lanes of traffic currently allowed for vehicles, making alternate modes of transportation non-existent. Finally, parking has been so prioritized that it has manifested into front parking lots, creating a physical barrier between pedestrians on the sidewalk and the buildings. The nature of how we produce and consume is changing, and therefore the nature of work is beginning to evolve as well. Retail storefronts have been declining since the Great Depression, and Cincinnati's neighborhood business districts, including those in Price Hill, have experienced this firsthand. The fallout has resulted in an onslaught of lifeless streets and vacant storefronts. The overprescription of retail as the predominant use for commercial areas has led districts like Glenway into an unsustainable cycle that negatively affects the greater community's quality of life, efficacy, and self-esteem. Therefore, exploring how non-retail uses can spur neighborhood vibrancy and activity must be explored in order to set neighborhood business districts up for success in the future.
A healthy street is one where there is trust between buildings, users, and pedestrians. Active storefronts can help sidewalks build trust, build life, and build community. But the question is, if you're not buying and selling in a storefront, what can it be used for? First, storefronts can act as community spaces where people can gather and interact. Second, storefronts can become a place for creation instead of consumption. Third, storefronts can still be places where people look, watch, and explore. And finally, storefronts can change. Sometimes the best use for a community requires the creation of a new space. The first phase of this project was comprised of 3 non-retail scenarios based on the concepts of live, work, and play. The live scenario focused on creating the district as a residential corridor. The work scenario aimed to create Glenway into a production district focused on increasing production and employment opportunities. and the play scenario placed the business district as a recreational area where residents and visitors could come and enjoy. These three scenarios were illustrated through individualized site plans, Glenway Avenue street designs, and existing storefront reactivation methods. Community feedback was obtained through an online survey and has helped inform the Glenway District Plan and Price Hill Wills property site plan for the final phase of this project. The three post-retail scenarios were presented to the public through an online presentation and response form. As shown here, the work scenario was the most popular of the three, and the runner-up was a combination of multiple scenarios. Furthermore, comments on the work scenario's strengths included how offices could attract more people into the district, helping support existing businesses while spurring economic development. The existing dining and service businesses were also identified as strong anchors for sustaining office space. One perceived weakness was the increase of traffic along the already busy street. Finally, a suggestion was placing parking in the back of the building. All of this feedback was instrumental in shaping the final phase of this district plan for Glenway Avenue. The goal of this project was to develop a district plan that revitalizes Glenway Avenue through increasing production and employment opportunities. A work-centered district manifests in many forms other than just traditional offices. This presentation will guide viewers through three versions of employment-centered development along Glenway Avenue: traditional office buildings, co-working spaces, and live-work units. Making Glenway Work will explore how these projects could not only bring jobs to the neighborhood, but also how they will affect public space and improve the pedestrian experience. The plan will lay out how each scenario's street designs function, how a currently vacant parcel or building could look and feel in the district, and how the Price Hill Will properties could be redeveloped. Although Glenway Avenue has its challenges, it also contains many small businesses that are vitally important to the neighborhood. For this reason, this plan only focuses on the vacant parcels and buildings along Glenway. Infill development of office, co-working, and live-work buildings will help restitch the area's urban fabric back together and bring foot traffic to the street. Price Hill Will, the neighborhood's community development corporation and project partner, owns several parcels of land along Glenway, shown in green. This land is currently vacant, and its development will be an important catalyst to rebrand Glenway as a work district.
Cincinnati's downtown office space is currently in decline. As businesses adapt to economic and technological changes, the nature of employment and work is evolving as well. While empty downtown office buildings are being converted into residential units, some urban neighborhoods are conversely retrofitting former industrial, retail, and residential units into office space to absorb the displaced office tenants from downtown. Creating traditional office space in urban neighborhoods allows for tenants to remain in the city and continue having access to urban amenities, pay cheaper rent, while reaching an underserved small tenant office market. As smaller startups continue to grow, they become large enough to need private office space. However, they aren't large enough to afford or sustain traditional downtown spaces. Therefore, urban spaces like along Glenway are prime neighborhoods to fill this market void. Glenway Avenue currently has 4 lanes of traffic, 2 in each direction with limited on-street parking during designated times. As mentioned before, the sidewalk abuts the street, making it dangerous for pedestrians. In order to make Glenway work, the street design must accomplish several goals: increase vehicular and pedestrian safety, allow for multimodal transportation, and improve the aesthetics of the district. Making Glenway Work recommends reducing the street from 4 lanes of traffic to 2 lanes with a middle turn lane. At the moment, Glenway does not have any turn lanes, which makes left-hand turns in both directions hazardous to vehicles and pedestrians while also slowing down traffic. The new street design also adds bike lanes in each direction to allow for those without cars or who wish to bike to work the option to do so. Just as the nature of work and employment is beginning to change, so is transportation, and it is important for Glenway to make proper adjustments in order to capitalize on a future with fewer personal automobiles. Next, small buffer lanes separate the bike lanes from the traffic lanes, making it safer for cyclists and pedestrians. Those walking on the sidewalks now have a bike lane and buffer lane between them and the road. Finally, trees will be planted in the buffer lanes to improve Glenway's scenery by making it more attractive. This proposed street design is recommended for each work scenario. To improve the relationship between the building and the street, the office building will have ground level retail like a cafe or a public amenity like a gym. This will help keep commuters in the neighborhood on their breaks while also giving residents and outsiders an added attraction to visit. Instead of having parking in the front of the building, parking will be moved to behind the office in order to allow for a plaza in the front. Plazas are good gathering places for people to enjoy at all times of the day and improve street level activity. This illustrates what a 4-story urban office would look like on Glenway across from the Talbert House, currently occupied by a vacant business. This stretch of Glenway is comprised of residential homes, some of which have been converted into service retailers. This stretch of buildings has unusually large setbacks from the road, and some have placed parking in the front of the buildings, creating a barrier between pedestrians and the structure. Notice how the new plaza runs right from the building up to the sidewalk compared to the buildings in the background. This helps passers-by see how the space is being used. The added street trees along Glenway provide an aesthetic appeal as well as shade for those enjoying the plaza. Additionally, the ground level windows help communicate how the space is being activated internally to those along the street. A key component of making Glenway work are the site plan scenarios on Price Hill Will's properties between Price Hill Chili and the Tower House for each of the working spaces. The development of the area offers Glenway a chance to connect several of its anchors, which are now separated by expansive empty lots. Each site plan operates around the dentist's office located in the middle of the site. Price Hill Will's property can adequately accommodate urban office buildings. Since the dentist's office sits in the middle of the site, 2 office buildings are recommended, 1 on each side. The site plan calls for parking to be placed behind the buildings so that the front plazas can adjoin the sidewalk. The ground level retail spaces are recommended for a cafe, gym, or other service, allowing for different amenities to be provided to the neighborhood.
Co-working spaces are becoming increasingly popular in Cincinnati and throughout the country. They provide users with shared and private workspaces, office equipment, and amenities for a monthly or yearly fee. Co-working offices serve a wide range of users, including startups, freelancers, and telecommuters. As an increasing amount of work in many industries is able to be done remotely, workers will look for productive environments to operate in. As we are currently seeing, working from home is often not ideal. Co-working spaces give people the freedom to work independently or collaboratively with other creatives. Glenway Avenue and the Price Hill community could benefit from offices that offer this flexibility. Co-working spaces attract creatives and innovators, so equipping the space with features like decks, outdoor workspaces, and green roofs would be an attraction to both the building and the district. Setting the building back slightly from the sidewalk provides room for a public patio or lawn, adding life and activity at the street level. Wider sidewalks, bike paths, and a green buffer provide pedestrians with ample room and protection from traffic, which promotes walking and cycling as a pleasant and safe mode of travel. Here you can see what a co-working space could look like on Glenway Avenue. Instead of an empty parcel separating the Performing Arts Center and the dental practice, an active use is introduced to the space, helping to build a complete street wall of buildings. This gives the sidewalk a sense of enclosure and encourages pedestrian activity. Parking is relocated to the rear of the building, prioritizing people's movement over cars while still providing for drivers. Price Hill Will's property is a perfect site for a co-working development. Because of the dentist's office in the center of the properties, 2 office buildings would be most appropriate. Ground level retail uses such as a cafe or fitness center could serve the office users as well as the neighborhood residents and visitors. Outdoor areas in front of the buildings could be used as additional workspace for the tenants or for public seating for retail uses. All parking would be located in the rear of the building to prioritize pedestrians and public interaction at the street and sidewalk level.
Live workspaces are slowly becoming more popular throughout America. This arrangement allows for an individual to permanently reside where they also work. Live workspaces are great for small businesses that aren't over-reliant on retail in their business model. These types of businesses have multiple channels for engaging with customers and commerce. With the internet, small businesses have more access to a wider audience than in the past. Instead of having two rents or mortgages, live workspaces allow entrepreneurs to conveniently combine these two expenses. Live workspace help attract activity to neighborhood business districts by offering 24/7 activity into the space, whether it be for business or personal activities. Having tenants live and work in the same area also helps the community grow tighter by allowing more opportunities for existing residents to meet with tenants. Live work units are arranged similar to townhomes that allow for private front yards, patios, or workspaces. These spaces are great areas for increasing visible activity from the building to the public right of way. The ground level floors can act as an office, storefront, or personal space. The Live Work street design for Glenway Avenue allows for pedestrians on the sidewalk to easily enter, view, and engage with owners and patrons. Here, live work units are depicted on Glenway along the stretch of road that houses many residential buildings. The duality of live work units allows for the building to seamlessly blend into the current urban fabric while overcoming immediate challenges like large setbacks. Eliminating the setbacks and replacing them with front yards, workspaces, or patios better utilizes the space between buildings and the right of way. Additionally, balconies communicate activity and energy to vehicles and pedestrians from both far and near. Finally, having large windows on the ground level lets the public see what is occurring inside the building, whether it be business or personal activities. The Live Work site plan for the Price Hill Will properties allows for up to 6 units. The units match the dentist's office in the middle and let tenants utilize front yards to strengthen the bond between the building and the street. The live work units also have spacious private backyards that aren't always easy to find in urban settings. Like the previous scenarios, parking is moved to the back of the buildings, with a green space occupying the very back of the lot. Alternate designs could provide for additional units with smaller yards and community green space.
Financing the redesign of Glenway Avenue and infill development projects is a challenge of this district plan. Fortunately, there are sources of funding available to the community. Grant programs such as the City of Cincinnati's Neighborhood Business District Improvement Program and the Ohio Department of Transportation's Safe Routes to Schools program offers grant funding to improve streets and sidewalks. Duke Energy's Urban Revitalization Initiative also offers grant funding to redevelopment projects that aim to stimulate growth, job creation, and further investments in Cincinnati's urban core. Infill development projects will be driven by private developers with Price Hill Will as a potential partner. A successful office project on the Price Hill Will property will demonstrate the market need for office buildings. Market data supports this need as 63% of the employment in the area is considered white collar. Private development may also be able to utilize the West Price Hill Tax Increment Financing District, which this stretch of Glenway is a part of. All new construction should opt into the city's TIF district as well so the fund can gain more revenue over time. For decades, West Price Hill's Glenway Neighborhood Business District has been dealt a losing hand by focusing its economic revitalization and future solely on retail. Through exploring non-retail uses that revolve around the work scenarios presented in the Making Glenway Work plan, this district has the opportunity to set itself up for future changes in how people travel, work, and engage with the city. Establishing Glenway Avenue as a work district will help West Price Hill improve its street design, urban character, and vacant areas, while creating a sustainable district identity. Each work scenario presented has great potential to thrive in West Price Hill and revive the street life along Glenway Avenue. Now it is up to the West Price Hill community, Price Hill Will, and private interests to determine which scenarios work best for each property.